Let's talk physics. Elodie looked up at Kai, who continued. There's no air resistance in space, so we're going to continue moving super fast. We just can't feel it. Still holding her big sister's hand, Elodie looked back through the window, past the open airlock, and gazed out at the stars beyond. Kai explained. So, since we and everything on the ship are moving at the same speed relative to one another, we look still. She nodded towards the crates in the airlock. That's why even after the engines died, the crates didn't float out into space. There was no change in velocity. They'll stay exactly where they are. To them, the hole in the airlock is nothing but an open window. There was a moment of silence between them before Elodie asked, Can you fix the engines? Kai stared at the crates of salvage parts that she'd been forced to abandon when the airlock malfunctioned. They would forever sit right there, just on the other side of this sealed door. And she managed to say, without any hint of despair in her voice, Nope. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of The Bad Spot, an actual play podcast where I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. This week's Tale from the Drift was from the wonderful Margot Hutton, who should know a thing or two about Ironsworn and fiction because she wrote a book that is part novel, part actual play, and if you want to check that out then you will find a link in the description below. I'd like to offer a huge, heartfelt thanks to Margot for sending in such a great piece to kick off the season. And if you want to roll some dice and write something for me to read at the beginning of a future episode, then the submission guidelines and contact details are on screen now. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. So, Season 2. We made it. We are here. Finally. I'm not going to recap what's happened in the previous 24 episodes, because we'd be here all day pretty much. So I'm just going to assume that you've all finished Season 1. If you haven't, please go back and do so. If you have, then I'm going to assume that you all know that Archer activated and stepped through an iron gate, and that left Luna and the Conduit fighting their way out of Sepulchre. So that's where we're at. But before we dive in, we do need to do a little bit of housekeeping, because in all the excitement of last season, there are a few things I kind of lost track of, things like vows and so on and so forth. So we're going to just refresh our memories, first of all, and bring those up to date. So let's get out of the way now. Firstly, we need to mark progress on our relationship with the Conduit. I think that breaking her out of space jail probably qualifies as standing with them against hardship, so we're going to mark progress according to a rank on that now, so that's up to 3 out of 10. Also, we have a vow running to discover the superweapon, which we now know is called the Lens. Now, I think that in terms of reaching a milestone, I think we have learned a significant amount about this weapon. We now know both its name and its purpose, and possibly something about its whereabouts too, if Archer's visions are anything to go by. So I'm going to say that learning more about its purpose, and when I say its purpose, I'm referring to that vague statement that Azrael made back on Sepulchre about it not being needed to fight the other clans, but more to defend themselves against something. I'm going to class that as gaining valuable insight, and I think that Archer also understanding that he's part of the network and is connected to the gates by some strange force, that also counts as acquiring a crucial item or resource. Plus, I think that getting through Sepulchre, fighting our way, through the hordes of Bannersworn and kind of with the escaping prisoners and all that, and finally reaching the gate and activating it and disappearing through it, I think that counts as overcoming a significant obstacle. So we are going to mark progress on our extreme vow 3 times. So that is going to take us up to 2 out of 10. So, all that progress for that. And finally, our background vow has continued to cook away. and that is to kind of unlock the secrets of the Iron Gates and find the Professor. So again, I think that actually using a gate and also becoming connected to this network, as it were, counts as gaining valuable insight and acquiring a crucial item or resource. So I think the only thing, we're not actually any closer to finding the Professor or even understanding their whereabouts, but I'm going to say we're going to mark progress twice on this, and this vows epic, so that's going to take us up to nearly 2 whole boxes of progress. Steady on, everyone. Don't get too carried away. Yeah, we're really at the bottom of the mountain there, aren't we, looking up? So, with that business concluded, anyone fancy getting back to the story? I certainly do. So, let's begin. Now, I want you to imagine a world. I want you to imagine a world very much like our own. It is a vital world. Ecologically, it is 58 is diverse with 3 biomes. 3 distinct biomes on this world. What are they? They are 79, Temperate Forest. 22, Grassland. 40, Mountains. So, imagine, if you will, this vital world. Vast oceans of sandy yellow grass swaying gently in the breeze, broken up by these huge stretches of dense, deep green, deciduous forest. Looming on the horizon is a rugged mountain range with jagged outcrops and snow-capped peaks. And there's something else. 61 is numerous small moons. So up in the pale blue sky hang 3 moons. The largest is a deep grey moon. It's pockmarked, it's scarred with craters and asteroid impacts. The middle moon is a pale, sulphurous yellow. And the smallest, which is, compared to the other 2, relatively tiny, is this tobacco brown dot in the far distance. And this world is a vital world, so therefore there must be life here. In fact, life here is 80, bountiful. And we now see an example of this bountiful life. We see 14, a small, dog-sized creature among the grass. It is 93, roll twice. Right, okay, I feel like this is going to get weird now. Okay, first roll. 31, it is crustacean / shelled. Fine, okay. And 24, beast mammal. A shelled mammal. It has 39 extra limbs and 67 mandibles or pincers. Okay, right. Okay. A dog-sized shelled mammal with extra limbs, mandibles or pincers. We can do this. Okay, so these vast grassy plains stretch out. They go on and on and on. And the only thing that stands out above this short grass are these dark bluish grey shells. There are hundreds of them in amongst the short grass, kind of moving slowly, occasionally stopping, circling round, stopping again before moving on. And the shells belong to a herd of animals grazing out on these plains. And one such animal stops its grazing and stands up on its hind legs. It's much like an armadillo in many ways. It has this ribbed shell on its back that protects a pale grey, fleshy body on the underside. But that's where the similarities to an armadillo end. This thing has short, stubby hind legs and then 2 sets of forelimbs, one pair of stubby legs, which are set out to the side of its torso, where its kind of shoulders would be. And then in the middle of its body, there is a slender, dexterous pair of arms that end in a pair of hands that are tipped with sharp digging claws. And those claws are holding a fat, plump, juicy, wriggling larval grub that this animal has dug up from amongst the dirt. And it brings it up to its mouth, which is insect-like. It has these razor-sharp mandibles on either side of the opening. And this mouth is in the center of a flat, rodent-like face, which has more shell-like plates running down the bridge of its nose, with straggly strands of wiry white hair poking out between the plates. It takes a bite of the grub and watches over its surroundings. And more of its kind are doing the same, kind of stopping and eating what they've found. But then this creature's little pink nose twitches. More of these animals stop what they're doing and do likewise. Sniff the air. Alert. Scanning the horizon for threats, for predators. This animal's gaze is drawn to an object that hangs in the sky. This object has always been there. It's an enormous, dark ring suspended in the planet's atmosphere. To these animals, it is just another shape, but to us, it is an iron gate. It's circular rather than built into the earth, and it is huge in comparison to the ones we've seen before. This is maybe 40 or 50 meters across. And the gate hangs in the air, maybe 10, 12, 15 stories from the ground. The animal tilts its head quizzically to the side as it looks at the gate, which begins to glow. And then there's a flash of light, followed by a low boom that causes the animals to scatter in panic, turning their shells to the sky and scuttling away to safety. After the flash and after the boom, an object appears through the gate. It is small, tiny, just a dot against the moons in the distance. It is falling with great speed. It is a person, and that person is Archer Barlow. So that's how we're going to begin Season 2, with Archer plummeting towards certain death. But we'll be charitable. The gate is high in the air, but I reckon it's probably survivable. And it's off in the distance. Let's say that the gate is hanging more towards where the forest is. And let's just say that the forest is populated with kind of large redwood type trees, kind of really big ones. So I reckon this will be totally fine. I don't think there's anything to worry about here. So let's just kind of envision what Archer has experienced in the last few seconds. I think he's kind of snapped to after having blacked out for a second. He stepped through that gate on Sepulchre, and then he disappeared, and he watched as his body dissipated and fragmented into tiny little pieces before his eyes, before it was then somehow reformed, reconstituted, followed by another flash, and here he is, falling at great speed towards a dark green clump of foliage, or what he hopes is foliage. So, first roll of Season 2. Basically, we're just trying not to die. So, what do we think that's going to be? Face danger? I think it's probably face danger. That's essentially the try not to die roll. So, face danger plus what? Edge? I think saying that he could try some kind of agile acrobatic move is probably stretching it. So I personally think this is going to be a roll plus iron with a kind of like testing his endurance. It's really a brace for impact type scenario rather than anything else. I don't think he's got time to do anything else. So he's basically got to try and protect himself. the best he can. So, first roll of the season. We are going to face danger, rolling plus iron. We're back, everybody. That's a miss. Perfect. Okay. On a miss, you fail, or a momentary success is undermined. By a dire turn of events, pay the price. So, let's envision what's happening. Archer comes to, and he is hurtling towards treetops. He has no time to adjust. He has no time to think. All he can do is brace for impact. This is going to be bad. This is going to hurt. So he covers his head, tries to make himself as small as possible, which is probably not helping him aerodynamically, but, you know, it's not really the time for complicated calculations. And he crashes through the canopy, hitting branch after branch after branch. This tree has got a lot of branches, and he feels like he's hitting every single one on the way down. Every single branch delivers a jolt of crunching pain that courses through his body. It spins him round. He is dizzy. He is disorientated. He is flipped. He is battered. He crunches onto the bigger branches, smashes through the smaller branches, and all the time he's thinking, well, hey, at least I'm slowing down. But when are these branches going to stop hitting me? How tall is this tree? This fall is going on forever. It seems like the fall through the tree has lasted longer than the fall from the sky, even though the distance can't have been as far. But the branches do end, and he scrapes down the trunk of the tree for 20, maybe 30 meters until he comes crunching to a stop on the forest floor. He's not dead, but that wasn't a great deal of fun. He's not falling anymore, which is a relief to him, but he also feels like he might have broken every single bone in his body. He checks himself over. Everything is more or less where it should be. He is in one piece. So let's pay the price, shall we? It feels wrong to do anything other than endure harm at this point. We have just fallen from the sky. So yeah, let's do that. Endure harm, and it feels serious, doesn't it? Plummeting to earth. So I think that's going to be 2 harm. It's not just a minor scrape. So yeah, let's say 2 harm. So our health down to 2. But we can try and resist this harm, and fans of this show will know that I'm notoriously good at this move. So yeah, what we can do is we can roll against our health or our iron, whichever is highest, and see if we can negate some of the effects of this fall. So let's do that right now. Our health is 2 and our iron is 2. So it's the same, so it's going to be +2. Okay, a weak hit. So ultimately I can exchange momentum for health. Now, do I want to do that? Now, my momentum is 2, and I suppose from a game standpoint, there is not really a great deal of difference between 1 momentum and 2 momentum. I can't really do much with either of those things. So I think I'm going to trade it. So I'll bump my momentum down to 1 and my health back up to 3. So Archer lays on his back. That was pretty bad. And looking up from where he lays on the mossy, lichen-covered forest floor, which is super comfy right now, he can see the iron gate in the sky through the canopy and can't quite believe that he survived that. And honestly, I can't believe it either. That could have been much, much worse. And he just kind of lies for a bit. He's kind of scared to move. But after a while, he kind of gets himself to his feet with a great effort. Every part of his body aches, hurts, feels busted. He has been banged up pretty good. But he's alive, and he is in one piece, and he can put one foot after the other and move. And he kind of stops for a second and takes in his surroundings and kind of breathes in this deep gulp of fresh, clean, sweet air. And he takes a moment, looks around, listens. The trees are alive with the sound of birds and insects, and the undergrowth kind of twitches with with signs of smaller creatures scuttling around. And he gathers his possessions together. His staff is kind of 20 or 30 meters across the clearing, and satchels hanging from a branch above him. Kind of gets himself together. He's got everything he needs, and it's time to move. So what's our play? What's our move? Now, this isn't the place from Archer's visions, or it certainly doesn't appear to be at first look. That was kind of like a rocky, dry, arid, desert type place, and this seems to be fairly lush. So I think this kind of proves that he may be part of the network, but in terms of a first go at navigating said network, I think this might have been unsuccessful. So what's Archer's goal in this situation? What does he need to do? Well, I think firstly, he needs to figure out where he is. And then secondly, he needs to activate the gate again so he can try and reach the place that he's seen in his visions, and then reach Luna. And as soon as Luna crosses Archer's mind, it feels like an anvil has just ploughed into his chest. And he knows that she is capable, he knows that she's resilient, he knows that she'll be okay, she can take care of herself. And he knows that he did the right thing. And stepping through that gate gave them both the best chance of surviving. And he has to trust that or learn to live with it. But for now, god damn it, thinking about their parting hurts like hell. So, we need to figure out where we are. This is the first thing we need to do. So, I think what Archer does is he proceeds with caution through the forest, and he kind of moves slowly but deliberately between the trees, trying to kind of stop every now and then to rest because he's just fallen out of the sky, and then also kind of scan his surroundings, make sure there's no kind of wildlife that can possibly assault him. He's been in this kind of situation before, fairly memorably, so he doesn't trust that, even though this place seems kind of serene and peaceful, that there isn't anything dangerous lurking in the shadows to like assail him. So he is being very cautious, but he moves on, he presses on, and it takes him about 15 to 20 minutes to reach the tree line where the forest meets the grassland, and it opens out into this beautiful vista. And he kind of takes a moment to survey his surroundings. He kind of looks at the grass, sees the mountains in the background, looks up at the iron gate, the three moons, and he watches the shells continue to move around the grass. They pass closely. At one point, one of these creatures stops, stands up, looks at him with indifference, rubbing its hand, feasting upon it, before it pays Archer no further mind and moves along. Happy that this isn't some kind of terrifying shelled insect rat monster, Archer feels it's safe to use this spot to do a bit of surveillance. So what we're going to do, I think the move is gather information, isn't it? But what are we looking for? I think specifically we're looking for signs of life. I mean, there's obviously life here. The armadillo mouse crabs are clearly part of this ecosystem's fauna. But we're looking specifically for what, like intelligent life, civilization. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? Signs of civilization, evidence that there are people here. And yeah, I think that's it. So we're going to gather information, rolling, plus wits, to figure out, are there any signs of intelligent life in this place? Now that there is a strong hit. That is the stuff. Shoot it into my veins. On a strong hit, we discover something useful and specific. The path you must follow, or action you must take, is clear. Envision what you learn and take +2 momentum. So up to 3 now, which is very nice. So what do we discover? What is going to indicate that there is intelligent life here? I do not have any ideas. So what we're going to do is we are going to ask the Oracle. Let's fire up the Planetside Opportunity Oracle and see what that says. So 76. 76 says, interesting sight offers opportunities for exploration. Okay, so the word sight kind of implies some kind of ruin, maybe? It can't just be a ruin. That wouldn't particularly stand out. And I would have already mentioned it, obviously. So where could this be? I think perhaps this is much further away than where we are now. I think that maybe this is up in the mountains. I think that's what he sees. So I don't know what kind of shape this ruin could have. Should we ask the oracle again, see what's going on? Try and figure out what this ruin might look like. Okay, so 19 is creature. Okay. And 30 is defended. Creature defended. Now that is a head scratcher. Okay, I've got it, I think. I have it. Archer plants his staff into the ground and kind of flicks the catch on top off and screws his scope into place. And he uses it to visually scan his surroundings. The grasslands seem to stretch on for miles and miles, and the forest from which he has just emerged wraps around from behind him all the way around to line the other side of this grassy steppe as it stretches out into the distance. And at one point, it must end and the mountains must begin. These kind of grey, blue rocks topped with pure white snow. And as Archer is scanning that mountain range, he can't really seem to see anything of interest, and he's about to stop looking and move on before he scans back over something that catches his eye. He zooms in. It's definitely something. And he dials in the focus on the scope to bring clarity to what it is that he thinks he's seeing. Between the 4th and 5th highest peaks, there is a narrow pass before the rocks rise up on either side. Leading up to that pass is a clear path, which wasn't obvious at first, but now Archer can see it. He can see the switchbacks cutting back and forth through the rock. But the pass itself has an unusual feature. Either side of the gap between the peaks stands a giant creature carved into the stone, guarding the pass, defending the pass. But what kind of creature? Let's roll on the basic creature form oracle and find out. 57 is lizard/reptilian. So on either side of the pass, there are these monstrous stone reptiles guarding the way. And Archer kind of steps away from the scope and kind of rubs his eyes in disbelief, and he has to kind of check back again to kind of see that is exactly what he has seen, and it's right. It is difficult to pick out the exact details at this range, but there is definitely two reptilian creatures with flat snouts and scaly hides carved into the rock, watching over the way. And Archer has no clue what they are or why they're there, but he knows that someone must have carved those things. And in lieu of any other obvious options, he's gonna have to go and check it out. So what we're going to do is we are going to undertake an expedition. Alas, we do not have Griff to scan ahead for us, so we're just going to have to do this the old-fashioned way and pound it out with our feet. So we're going to call this Explore the Mysterious Pass in the Mountains. And we'll make it dangerous, or no, actually formidable. Dangerous, formidable. Let's say dangerous. Okay, let's say dangerous. So Archer looks around. He's clearing what he has to do and where he has to go. It's not much to go on, but it's something. Giant rock lizards is something. And as he begins to walk across the grassy plains towards the mountains in the far, far distance, the sky above him darkens and a steady rain begins to fall. And Archer curses his luck, but presses on anyway, towards the mountain pass on the horizon. But we're not going to make that roll now, because Luna is being pulled. She looks up the stairs to see the conduit, pulling at her sleeve, pulling her up the stairs, away from the corridor. 2 dead Bannersworn lay at the bottom of the stairs, and back along the corridor towards the elevator that moments ago they stepped out of, more Bannersworn are emerging. Clan Thorn Bannersworn, rifles at the ready. In the other direction, she can see Archer, backlit by the glow of the gate behind him. They make eye contact. He smiles softly to her. This is it. He's going to do it. She knows he has to, and she promised him that when the time came, she'd turn and run. And that is what the conduit is wanting her to do, pulling her away from danger. But Luna can't look away. She can't take her eyes off Archer and the gate. Not until she sees him go. Azrael Vega blocks the way between them, his hands glowing with pinky yellow light. Archer takes a step backwards. There's a flash, and then he's gone. And Luna's chest tightens. Her heart sinks, and she turns and runs. She runs up the stairs and through corridors filling with smoke, sparks showering down on them. The corridors rock from side to side as impact after impact rocks the structure, rocks Sepulchre, this orbital prison. The conduit loses her footing and stumbles, but Luna grabs her by the arm and pulls her up, dragging her along the corridor towards the hangar. She looks back one last time, maybe to see if the Bannersworn are there, if they're rounding the corner, if they've gained on them. Or maybe to see if Archer somehow reappears. But neither happens, so all she can do is run. Run to the hangar. The hauler from Rust is still there. The rear loading doors are open, the Eclipse engines idling, ready to launch inside. Another explosion sends them both stumbling to the floor. Through the hangar entrance, they can see the junk fleet has amassed in space outside. Hopefully, they can blow the hauler and escape in the chaos, get clear and jump into the drift. That is Luna's plan. Well, it was actually Archer's plan. It was the plan he laid out before it all went to hell. Recover the prisoners, escape in the Eclipse, and blow the hauler to cover the escape. Well, Archer is gone. Kane is dead, and Luna is the only surviving member of the rescue party. She grips tightly onto the conduit's arm as they stagger to their feet before they make their way up to the Eclipse's landing ramp. Before they do, Luna primes the charges set on the inner wall of the hauler, and the countdown begins. They enter the cockpit. Griff is ready. And Luna says, "Get us out of here, Griff." He's going to meet us later. And the Eclipse rises up and out of the hangar, moving speedily away from the hauler that is ready to blow. Luna and the conduit look out of the rear viewport to see the hangar fill with flames and an explosion tear Sepulchre in two. This should do it. This is their chance to escape. The conduit is busy tapping some coordinates into the navigation console as the E-drive fires up. And Luna says, "Where are we going?" The conduit doesn't look up. She says, "We aren't going anywhere, kid. Look, I'll get you somewhere safe, but that's the end of the line." And Luna says, "Somewhere safe? What about Archer?" And the conduit looks up at her and says, "What about Archer? He's gone. I'm sorry, but he's gone. Thanks for breaking me out, but I can't help you. I've got my own problems." And Luna says, "You can't help me, or you won't help me." The conduit says, "Does it matter which? Pick one, then let's move on. And that barb just hangs in the air between them. The two women stare each other down. But then everything goes dark. The power on the Eclipse cuts out, and the E-drive winds back down. Outside, every ship in the fleet seems to be experiencing the same thing. Smaller craft that were zipping around suddenly find themselves hanging helplessly in space as their engines die. The larger vessels also power down, portholes and bridges plunged into darkness. Luna says, "What's happening?" And then a vessel drops out of the drift before them, tearing a purple and pink rift into space. This vessel is highly unusual. 3 or 4 times the size of the Eclipse. It is obsidian black, with decorative golden piping running the length of the hull. But the most unusual thing about this ship is its shape and form. There are large, powerful engines at the back, but other than that, it doesn't look like a ship at all. To us, it could be described as baroque in design. An ornate golden dome at the centre of this thing, with 2 minaret-type structures towards what must be the ship's bow, with colonnades and slanted rooftops seemingly crammed into every available surface, giving this thing such an extraordinary appearance. To us, it looks like a cross between a spaceship, a cathedral, and a mosque. And the conduit says, "I take it back. My problems can wait." And Luna says, "What is that thing?" And the conduit says, "The soulbinders are here." Thank you, thank you, thank you, a million times thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you've not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified the next time an episode drops. I'll be back next week, but until then, it is farewell and safe passage.